Band is blowing Dixie, double fall time. You feel alright when you hear the music ring. Well, now you step inside, but you don't see too many faces. Coming in out of the rain, they hear the jazz go down. Competition in other places, but the horns, they blowing that sound. Way on down south, way on down south, London town. You check out Guitar George, he knows all the chords. But it's strictly rhythm, he doesn't want to make it cry or sing. If then an old guitar is all he can afford.
Yes. Please have a seat. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for coming to celebrate Bart's life, coming to remember, hear some stories, tell some stories, eat some food, and just reminisce. And so we're glad that you could be a part of it. Thank you to everybody who made it through the weather, not the day we were hoping for, but thank you for being here, especially on behalf of the family, for Wendy and Chris and Mike and Nick. They just appreciate so much your support and your love. And I know there's been a lot of kind words over the past week already, but your support here means so much. And so thank you for being here. We're going to just have a few people are going to come and share in just a moment. And for those who are sharing, we gave you an outline. Just follow one another, and that way you just kind of, it'll just flow. And the family wants to make sure you know as well that afterwards, you're invited to have some food. If you just turn left out the door here, there's a gym at the end, and you're welcome to stick around and just come enjoy some refreshment and see the family and talk with each other and reminisce together. But they want to know you're welcome to be a part of that. And again, as we thank you for being here today in this space, and as Wendy was saying last week, when Bart was in the hospital, he really appreciated the chapel in the hospital. It was a place that he could find quiet. It was a place that he could find a bit of solace and a bit of peace in the midst of the noise and everything going on. And so as we've gathered in this place today, if you need some time afterwards, feel free. You can just stay and be in here as well. You can just have a moment of quiet and a moment of solace if you need. We will not kick you out of here. And so I encourage you to take advantage of that if you need that today, because I know there's a lot of grief, a lot of mourning, and a lot of feelings. And so if you need some time, we do encourage you to take the time that you need. But as we welcome you, also just want to open with a word of prayer here this morning, and then Kathy's going to come up. And so, Lord, as we gather in this place to remember, Lord, but also to rejoice. Lord, it's a sorrowful day. But as we hear stories and as we remember and as we reflect and as we think through Bart's life, yes, there's grief at the loss, but there's also joy in all the memories that have been made. So for everyone here today, may we hear these words, even in our sadness. May we recognize the joy. May we recognize the joy in his life, the joy that he brought to so many people. Lord, for those who may be hearing some of these stories for the first time, as we laugh, we get to rejoice, and we get to find joy even in the midst of sorrow. So as we gather in this place today to remember, to reflect, to mourn, we just ask that your Spirit is here to comfort or to lead and to guide us. We ask and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to call Kathy up.
A reading from St. Paul's second epistle to Timothy. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but to all who have loved his appearing. Goodbye, Bart.
So my name is Dan, and I am the pastor of this church, but I've also got to be friends with Bart for the last number of years. I started volunteering at Trinity, and there was Bart handing out food at the door, and kind of a, well, you know him, kind of bigger than life, right? Just his presence and his laugh and everything about him. And I was a touch on the nervous side, but not with Bart. You can't be nervous with Bart. He makes you feel at home. And within a few weeks, right, if I didn't know Bart, you kind of feel like you've known him forever. He's just one of those guys. He also tells a lot of stories about his life, so you feel like you know his life too. So as we remember today, I'm glad I get to be a part of this, and thank you for letting me be a part of this. Because I'm sure you were just all as shocked when you found out as I did. I was thinking, I was getting a call saying you're late for your shift at Trinity. Come on down, and that was not the call we received, and not the call that I was certainly expecting. It still doesn't seem very real. Not at all. And this is why we're here today. As we do gather, it is with heavy hearts. It is. Right? We come with grief, and we come with memories, and we come with love, and with questions. And it's moments like this, right, that we turn to the words of Jesus because they ground us in what matters most. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells a story. He says, about the end of our lives, and he says that one day we'll stand before God, and the question will not be how successful we are, how wealthy we were, or how impressive we looked on paper. But it says Jesus will ask us these questions. It says, did you feed the hungry? Did you give drinks to the thirsty? Did you welcome the stranger? Did you clothe the naked? Did you care for the sick? And did you visit the lonely and forgotten? And people will say, Lord, when did we ever do these things for you? And Jesus answered, whenever you did this for the least of these, my brothers and my sisters, he says, you did this for me. So every act of kindness, every act of love, every moment of compassion are not small at all, but they're sacred. They matter not just to us, but they matter to God. And today, at this memorial, we're going to remember a life. We're going to remember Bart's life. Remember the way that he loved as a person, the way he served, and the way that he gave. And this passage, right, it gives us a lens to see the way that Jesus sees our lives. Because it's in God's eyes that life is not measured by trophies or by titles, but it's by our love. Our love is shown in cooking meals for people, having a listening ear, our quiet generosity, and showing up when it matters most. And every time love was given to someone in need, Jesus says, you did this for me. And that means that those acts of love and kindness and generosity and service echo into eternity. And this is how I met Bart. I met him serving and giving and handing out food. And actually didn't know what to do with him the first couple of times because we only had so much food and he kept giving out extra. And I'm like, we're going to run out, man. Like, I don't know you that well. But in my head, I'm like, you can't do that. And then you go downstairs and pop up with more. Or you go out and you just buy more. I found out later that on Mondays, we don't always get the best snacks at Trinity. Friday uses them all. I don't know if there's any Friday crew here, but I'm not complaining. Just stating facts. And I know that Bart would go out and he would just buy more snacks on his own. And he would bring those in. He didn't boast about it. He didn't talk about it. It's just what he did. This is who he was. This is what this passage is talking about. And there's something comforting in this passage because it tells us that God is not distant from our pain. He identifies with the hurting, with the lonely, with the grieving. And he says, when you cared for them, he says, you cared for me. And he's speaking to Bart. This is what Bart did week after week after week. Year after year after year. And this means today in our grief and in our tears and in our sense of loss, right, Jesus is near. He stands with those who mourn. He's present with the brokenhearted. So we are not alone in this moment. I'm going to encourage the family and friends over these next few weeks. This week is busy and everybody's here. But in the next month, in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, I encourage you to make sure you're calling and visiting and coming by. Making sure you're checking in on Wendy and checking in on the boys and especially on those special holidays. It's busy now, but there'll come those moments of loneliness and of grief. And so I want to encourage everybody in this room to keep caring, keep loving, keep showing up. And that's what this passage calls us to, right? It calls us to move forward. Because the greatest way that we can honor Bart's life is not just by remembering it, but by continuing it. And every one of us, right, we will leave, we'll go back to a world that is hungry and physically in some ways, but not just for food, but for kindness and for hope, for compassion. And so Jesus tells us that this is where we will find him. We'll find him in the struggling neighbors and in the lonely friend, in the person no one notices, and the people who walk through the doors of Trinity. I've never seen someone be so gracious as they were throwing someone out of a bathroom for doing drugs in the bathroom, right? Like, that's just who Bart was. He always had compassion. He never got mad at them. He never yelled at them. He was just so kind. And what Bart did, he loved people. And it's in loving them that we meet Christ. And this passage reminds us that death is not the end of the story. Right? Jesus speaks these words as the king who welcomes his people into his eternal kingdom, a place where there is no more hunger and no more sickness, no more loneliness and no more tears, which means Bart doesn't have to hand out food at the door anymore. For those who trust him, his love is never wasted, and that life is never lost. It is carried into eternity. So today we grieve and we remember, but we also give thanks. And we hold on to the hope that every act of love matters, as Bart showed us. Every act of kindness, even done in a small way, echoes through eternity. So those acts matter, the loves matter, that Christ is amongst us, and that one day we will hear his voice say, "Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me." And that's what we're celebrating today, what we're rejoicing. And the stories you're about to hear will reflect that, just who Bart was. The love and the joy and the hope that filled him. So we're going to call up a number of different people, and you have those. People who are going to come up, we're going to call up. Dave's going to come up first, followed by Chris, and then the boys, and then Wendy. And so, Dave, if you would like to come up.
For those who don't know me, my name is Dave. I'm Bart's brother-in-law, Wendy's oldest brother, Uncle D to a lot of my family, and Posty to a lot of our friends. With me is my wife, Leanne, or Aunt Leanne. That's it, no nicknames. We are privileged to be able to say a few words about Bart.
In the book, The Beginner's Goodbye, the husband, who has recently lost his wife, tries to focus on the things about her that annoyed him in hopes that it would make him miss her less. We tried this with Bart, but we couldn't think of anything about him that annoyed us.
Well, maybe that hole in one. We were all shocked with the news of Bart's sudden passing. Bart had some recent health issues and seemed to have turned the corner and was doing better. I just saw him the Tuesday before his passing. He and Wendy showed up unexpectedly at golf play, where I was golfing with some of Bart's and my golf buddies. They came out to do some chipping and putting. Bart said, "I just have to get out." He said, "I'm bored, I just need to get out." So it was nice to see him. I first met Bart at Cambridge Memorial Hospital. We both started working in 1977, Bart in the ambulance service and myself in the laboratory. Both of us would frequently meet in the emerge department as part of our jobs, along with many other staff members that we would get to know and still know to this day. Wendy came to work a few years later in the same laboratory, and eventually Bart met Wendy at a staff doctor's baseball game. They eventually started dating. At the time, I was a little shocked because I knew Bart and I wasn't expecting this. You know, big brother protecting little sister. but Bart was so nice you couldn't help to like him. At the time, I remember Bart and myself discussing our low pay grade at the hospital and deciding what else we could do for a living. It was down to working for the beer store or trying out for the firefighters, as both of those jobs paid much better than what we were getting. Firefighter won out for Bart while I stayed in the lab. Bart worked for the Cambridge Fire Department until he retired, and through him, I got to know a lot of the firefighters that we both played many years together with the firefighters hockey guys. Sorry, I lost. Bart was well respected by his peers and would do anything to help his fellow firefighters and friends and family. Bart was very involved with the annual Firefighters Basket Fund, helping needy people in the community, and often got his family involved. He even got Leanne and I helping a couple of times. This is just the way Bart was, always giving. Bart proposed to Wendy during one of our yearly lab cottage weekends at John and Marjorie's up near North Bay, where party and libations were aplenty. The girls all started cheering and crying. The guys were probably unfazed or maybe inebriated. Wendy had to ask them again the next day if he really meant it. Once they were married, they eventually moved to Branston and were blessed with 3 boys, Mikey, Chris, and Nick. Together they raised 3 fine boys, teaching them great family and life values. Leanne and I had the privilege of seeing them grow up, whether it be at Sunday dinners at Grandma's, family function, or the boys' hockey games, etc. All the boys got their university degrees and were married and blessed Wendy and Bart with their own team of grandsons, 5 of them, Carter, Charlie, Dylan, Isaac, and Sawyer. They loved their grandbabies and would do anything for them, as evident by the Toys for Us store in their basement. These young boys are going to miss their papa. We're all going to miss him. Bart enjoyed many things. Love of family was first. Hockey was another. I enjoyed many games playing with him, whether it be Friday mornings with the firefighters or in the independent hockey league or on our tournament old-timer team called the Budlicks. If you're interested, you can ask me about that name after the service. We were a bunch of friends with various talent levels, Bart being one of the better players. Our motto on the team was you were based there on your ability to pay. In the last few years, Bart took up curling with Wendy at the Golf Curling Club, and they met and won over another group of friends. He was still learning the finer points of the game, but enjoyed the camaraderie of sitting with the opposite team members for beverages after the game and afforded them a chance to meet new people and chat. Bart's second greatest love next to his family was golf. Over the years, he had many friends whom he golfed with. After retirement, he was able to play even more and became a member of the Cambridge Golf Club. Bart was part of our yearly Pennsylvania golf group, which was just more than golf, which included lively discussions and libations. Drawing Bart in your daily scramble was not like drawing a Norma, but he was high up on the list of good golfers that many people wanted on their team. Bart also played in our Tuesday group that we would play at many different courses. He would never get upset with his own game if he had a bad round or a bad shot, and would always help us when we struggled with our own game, which in my case was often. After Tuesday golf, he would usually be the first one to buy a round for the boys, even though he was only having a soft drink. Then he would rush off, pick up Wendy, and visit our brother-in-law in a long-term care home. That's just the way Bart was.
Okay, Bart's giving did not stop there. As in his retirement, he gave back to the community by working tirelessly at the soup kitchen at the Cambridge Trinity Church. Working alongside Wendy, they helped the needy of the community. His passing leaves a big hole to be filled, and his colleagues will miss him dearly. Bart was a man of simple needs. In his bachelor years, if you asked him what he wanted, he said all he ever wanted was a wife, a home, and a family. Together with Wendy, his goddess, he achieved that. To Bart, it would have been like winning the lottery, finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or finding that buried treasure.
Not if he was on Oak Island.
On the cerebral side, Bart was very well read and could stimulate many a lively conversation on books, movies, actors, directors, often providing more information or a different point of view. He had a habit also of injecting a sense of humor into these discussions. It was, however, his knowledge of music and his talent for playing the guitar that further rounded out the person Bart was.
For my surprise 30th birthday party, Bart took to the stage, singing a few numbers with the band. He belted out Back in the USSR like a true rock star.
Many at the time we sat around and sang songs with Bart, Dire Straits, Cat Stevens, the Beatles, etc., etc. Notably was Tim McGraw's Always Be Humble and Kind, which was the way Bart lived his life. For me, my all-time favorite was Harry Chapin's Taxi, whether it was sung around a campfire or on a beach in Punta Cana. Bart said that one day he went upstairs and the boys were on the bed jumping up and down, singing songs, and he said, of all the songs they picked out of my repertoire, they picked Smoking in the Boys' Room. He would often sit outside and sing to his grandchildren during the COVID bubble years. He and his friend Paul Miller also set up a karaoke gig. They would entertain at parties. They were hired for a curling bonspiel. They went wherever they were needed. Bart and Paul would get up first and start everybody off singing. Then those who could really sing would follow. And the rest of us who needed several shots of courage and couldn't sing would get up and then never want to quit. Typical of Bart, he never shut us down. He always let us sing until the wee hours of the morning. Okay, now I'm losing it. Okay. Sunday afternoons, we would gather at Mum's. Wendy and Bart sitting on the small sofa, Wendy on the right, Bart on the left. Yes, it'll be a long time before we can look at that place and not feel the loss. One less setting at the dinner table. Right to the end, Bart gave so freely and generously of his time and his love. His pride in his family is fathomless, his love for them unconditional.
Bart will be missed by so many people. He touched so many lives. He was a wonderful husband to Wendy, a great father to Mike and Bina, Chris and Maddie, Nick and Allison, and yes, he considered you girls his daughters. He was an awesome papa to Carter, Charlie, Sawyer, Dylan, and Isaac, a terrific brother, brother-in-law, uncle, and great-uncle. He treated his mother-in-law as his own mother and would always call her Mom. In closing, if there were a few more Barts in this world would be a much better place. Gone but not forgotten, he will live on in our hearts. Aren't we lucky to have known him? Thank you.
Very well said, Dave and Leanne. Thank you, Pastor, for having me here today, and thank you, Wendy and family, for asking me to say a few words about what Bart meant to the firefighters in Cambridge and to the fire department. Oh, and by the way, I should introduce myself. My name's Chris Davidson. I've known Bart. I've been good friends with Bart for about 36 years. I worked with Bart as a colleague and a co-worker for 26 years on Cambridge Fire. And again, I'm honored to be able to come here and tell you a little bit about Bart at work, let's say. So Bart or Bartley, or Barty, or Bartman, or Bartholomew started his career at the Cambridge Fire Department on July 6, 1987, when he was assigned CFD badge number 217. His firefighting career was a natural transition from his previous career, where he spent 10 years as a local ambulance service attendant, or what's known now as a paramedic. When I say natural transition, it's because as long as I've known Bart, he's been a committed and involved public servant. Always trying to help out in the community in so many ways, in every way, actually. So Bart retired from the CFD on April 30th, 2015, when he was celebrated for close to 28 years of service at Cambridge Fire, and for close to 38 years of service as an emergency first responder. And let me tell you, Bart packed an incredible amount of service into those 28 years at Cambridge Fire. Many in the room today may not know much about firefighter culture or firehouse culture, but I think it's important to give you a brief description so that you can fully understand how much Bart meant to the firefighters here in Cambridge. Firefighters spend many hours together in the station. The time together includes training activities, sharing meals, sleeping, fitness, cleaning the station, and cleaning the vehicles, and of course, responding to many different types of emergencies. We spend holidays together in the station, Christmas, Easter, long weekends, etc. So it really is like an extended and separate family. And like most families, there are a variety of personalities and characters at the fire station. Bart was one of those fire station exceptional characters. Also in the fire service, which is a quasi-military organization, there are formal and informal leaders. The formal leaders are officers like captains or platoon chiefs or chiefs, and they wear gold on their uniforms and they have stripes on their shoulders to indicate their rank. However, the informal leaders in the fire station may be even more influential, and they don't have or need rank, stripes, or gold to contribute and to be looked up to. They're leaders simply by the way they carry themselves, simply by who they are and how they act. This was exactly who Bart was at the fire station. Calm, intelligent, positive, caring, and above all else, just a great guy to talk to. He was an important informal leader and an exceptional character. Over the past week, I've asked several retired and current Cambridge firefighters, Cambridge Fire friends actually, to describe Bart with a phrase or a quote as they remember him. Here are some of the quotes that show how much Bart was loved and admired by his firefighter family. Bart was a guy who didn't care of your status and could make everyone feel good about themselves. I would describe Bart as always a gentleman, calm, steady, and respectful in every interaction. He was incredibly skilled as a firefighter and intelligent, but what always stood out to me most was his compassion. Bart was one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. On the golf course, whenever I had a bad shot, or 2 or 20 bad shots, he would always settle me down and allow me to see the bigger picture. And finally, he was kind, helpful, funny, and the kind of person that no one has or could ever say anything remotely bad about. Now, as close to perfect as Bart was, he did have some funny quirks about him. As I said, firefighters often sleep together in a dormitory, 4 or 5 beds in a room. In Bart's early years on the department, he earned a reputation as a bit of a loud sleeper. Quite frankly, he snored as loud as a freight train. Attempts to wake up Bart in the dormitory so that everyone else could get to sleep usually failed. And when I say attempts, in the fire station, if we need to wake someone up, we'll throw a shoe against the wall or throw a pillow at someone or a roll of socks or maybe a loud cough. It didn't really work, though, when we tried this with Bart, because he would just simply wake up, roll over, and go right back to sleep. Typical Bart, though, as time went on and he realized he was causing a bit of a ruckus, he volunteered to sleep in a separate and private room, like the station office, so he wouldn't disturb any others. And thankfully for Bart, and I think maybe more importantly for Wendy, the issue was temporary as he was prescribed a CPAP machine to help him sleep soundly and quietly. And I personally can say that he was the best roommate ever on golf trips once he got that CPAP machine. And as we talk about sleep, after a long day on one of our recent golf trips with the guys, and you saw some photos there of the firefighter golf group, Bart was feeling a little bit tired. We were at our friend Marty Mills' cottage, and at golf during the day, we spent hours in the river and had an awesome barbecue together. Bart and Marty were out of the poker game, so they were sitting watching TV, and Marty was telling Bart a story. But Bart was running out of steam. The rest of us watched quietly from the poker table as Bart's eyelids got heavy, despite his best efforts to stay awake. Despite the story, Bart fell asleep sitting up, and Marty hadn't noticed. He was continuing his story to a sleeping Bart. Finally, after about 5 minutes, Marty heard a soft snore and realized that Bart was sleeping. All this while we watched from the poker table, trying not to laugh. Marty said, "Bart, are you listening?" Which woke Bart up with a snort. Bart replied, "Yes, Marty, I heard everything you said." And he winked and he smiled and got up and went off to bed. And we couldn't stop laughing. We were rolling on the floor laughing and howling. So now anytime on any of our golf trips when someone is tired or it's time to go to bed, we ask Marty to tell them a story, just like he did Bart, so they can get to sleep quickly. A few years ago, our golf group traveled to Collingwood to celebrate our friend Shane's 50th birthday. Of course, Bart was invited and was part of the group. We had a long day on the course and ended up out to dinner in the village at a place called Firehouse Pizza. Well, somehow Bart got turned around in the restaurant that night when we were leaving, and he couldn't find the exit. His hearing aids were somehow turned off, and he ended up at the basement of the restaurant. As I said, it had been a long day on the course. He had to ask us, "How do I get out of here?" Well, you can imagine how hard we all laughed and teased Bart forever about the ironic fact that he's the only firefighter that I knew who spent 28 years in a firehouse but couldn't find their way out of a firehouse-themed restaurant. You already heard a little bit about this, but the Cambridge Firefighters Basket Fund is an annual event that local firefighters host every year. It's usually held the third week of December, where firefighters receive donations of food and toys and pass the donations along to families in need. Often local firefighters will help 400 to 500 families in a year. The event is intense and requires a ton of hard work throughout our Basket Fund week. And typically that Basket Fund week runs from Monday morning at 7 a.m. till Saturday afternoon, late in the afternoon when all the food and gift baskets are distributed to the needy families. It will come as no surprise to anyone here that Bart became involved in a leadership role in our Basket Fund from the very start of his career. By the time I met Bart in late 1989, when I started on CFD, he was on the Basket Fund committee helping plan, organize, and run the annual event. Bart was there first thing every morning during Basket Fund week, usually with a coffee for the other volunteers who arrived with him. He came in each and every day, and often it was a family affair as Wendy, Mike, Chris, and Nick helped out whenever they could. Bart was on the Basket Fund committee for close to 20 years. And when the time came to mentor newer and younger firefighters as part of a succession plan, Bart patiently and calmly showed them what to do and how to do it. Finally, a new Basket Fund committee was formed, and after 20 years of leadership, Bart could have simply volunteered to help out occasionally, or he could have taken a well-earned break from the Basket Fund activities. But of course, Bart believed in helping people in the community. And although he was no longer in a formal role on the Basket Fund committee, he continued to be the first person there Monday morning and the last person to leave Saturday afternoon. Bart continued to be one of our top volunteers, rarely if ever missing a day when he could. He would come early, stay late, smile, laugh, and be the positive, helpful person that he was. Going above and beyond was common for Bart. As I stated, he was an influential, informal leader at emergencies and in the fire station. So much so that when one of the firefighters on Bart's crew was having chest pains and had a heart attack at the station, Station 4 on St. Andrews Street, the firefighter actually had no pulse and was VSA in the station. Bart sprang into action, was his usual calm and professional self. He took the lead in treating the patient, and everyone else followed his lead. Bart initiated CPR, gave O2, monitored vitals as necessary, and assisted the paramedics when they arrived. It wasn't that the other firefighters didn't help with the treatment. It was a team effort, but it was Bart who we looked to for guidance. Ron Hergott, or Hergy, the firefighter on Bart's crew who had that heart attack at Station 4, eventually fully recovered. Recently turned 83, and he's enjoying over 23 years of retirement today. So it wasn't just at the station, though, where Bart was a good guy to know and to have around. Approximately 10 years ago, no surprise, we were on a golf trip in Parry Sound. One of our group, a retired firefighter from another department, was having chest pains, and he was playing with Bart that day. I watched them whiz by in the golf cart and head to the clubhouse as Bart realized that the situation was serious and required paramedics, and Bart provided whatever treatment and guidance he could while waiting for EMS to arrive. Again, Bart was his normal, calm self, confident self, and when he looked into these situations, we looked to him for leadership. The retired firefighter, who did in fact have a heart attack, his name is Mike R., and he was flown to Sudbury Hospital. He eventually fully recovered, and just like Hergy, He continues to enjoy his retirement today, in no small part thanks to Bart. So it's probably quite obvious that it would be an understatement to say that Bart will be missed by the Cambridge firefighters. He will be terribly missed during Basket Fun Week. He will be missed at retirement parties and gatherings. He'll be missed on the golf course, and he'll be missed on our golf trips. But Bart's legacy will live on for a long time. He mentored firefighters and led by example so that our basket fund can continue to run smoothly every year. He was there to help save lives, like Hergy or Mike R., to name a few. Bart will always be thought of on our golf trips when Marty starts telling a story and we all fake fall asleep. Here are a few accurate descriptions from co-workers, current firefighters, that really highlight how important and admired Bart was by the CFD. Bart was a family man we all aspired to be. He always remembered our kids' names and checked to see how they were doing. Conversation with Bart was always genuine, and when he spoke, everyone listened. Bart was the kind of guy you wanted in your group: steady, dependable, authentic. He didn't need to be the loudest person in the room. In fact, he rarely was. Bart always listened. He didn't speak much, but when he did, you paid attention because it mattered. There was wisdom there, calm, thoughtful, grounded advice that somehow always cut through the noise. Not only did I never hear a bad word about Bart, everyone aspires to be the kind of human that Bart was: a caring, compassionate, and a true family man. Bart was a magician when it came to turning negativity on its head, and all with a smile. Bart was a rare gem, always ready to help or listen. And finally, it was so easy to feel comfortable around Bart because he felt like the perfect father/friend. You knew he was proud of Wendy, the boys, the grandkids, but he'd always ask about your family first and show genuine interest in your life. If asked, he'd share his wisdom, usually with a chuckle or a snort, and the advice he gave was always appreciated. Bart's character and love for others is an example for everyone. So Wendy, Mike, Chris, Nick, and the entire Moore and Post family, I am so sorry for your loss. The Cambridge firefighters are very sorry for your loss. But we're also very thankful that we got to spend time with Bart, that we got to learn from Bart, that we got to laugh with Bart, and that he was such an important part of the Cambridge Fire team for so many years. So thank you.
Okay, you hear me? Growing up, we had a lot of hockey games. A lot. Some of them I played well, a lot of them I didn't. And when I had a terrible game, I can remember this overwhelming sense of embarrassment and frustration. And all I wanted to do was get my equipment off, dressed as fast as possible, so I could get in the car with Dad. I knew he'd make it all okay. I knew he'd pick out those two seemingly insignificant parts of the game where I did something good. You know, remember when you stood in front of the net and didn't let that guy push you around? Remember when you went in the corner with that guy twice your size and got the puck out front? By the time we got home, it always felt like I had a pretty good game. There was this comfort in knowing he was watching. And it was the same with everything. tryouts, presentations, speeches, a test, a job interview. He had this gift. He always saw the good, and he made you see it too. And as much as he loved being a dad, the best gift I ever gave him was 2 more grandkids, because he loved being a grandpa. Jeez. Like, it's only been 6 months since we were at the lake, and I watched him on his hands and knees under the water while 5 not so small kids were climbing on top his back while he launched them into the water. I had to stop them a few times to make sure he wasn't drowning. He just wanted to make them smile and laugh, and it didn't matter that he was 70 years old. He was never going to stop doing those things. He loved my boys, he loved Mike's boys so much, and they loved him. He's the kindest, most selfless person I've ever known or ever will know. And Mike, Nick, and I were the luckiest people in the whole world that we got to call him Dad. And when I think about how I can carry on his memory, I just think about those car rides.
There are so many things. There's so many things that can be said and have been said today about my dad. So many memories throughout my life that I'll cherish and remember forever. I thought today I'd talk about some of the life lessons and wisdom that he passed on to me. He taught me that when you go to the movies, you have to finish your popcorn before the trailer so you can go get your free refill before the movie starts. He taught me that if you're going to eat a bowl of dry cereal, it's very important that you drink a glass of milk and shake up to mix it all together. And he taught me that you can just pronounce words however the heck you want. I think the one that got me the most was the car brand Acura becoming Acura. I never really understood that one. And he taught me that if you're going to make a speech, you might as well put in a few jokes. Allison and I moved out to BC about 3 years ago now. We've come back to Ontario once or twice a year since then, and we've got 2 sets of families to see, a bunch of different friend groups, so it's always a whirlwind trip of trying to see as many people as we can. But it didn't take me long to realize that one of the most important things that I had to do was carve out a morning to just sit and have a cup of tea and coffee and chat with my mom and dad, because those were just some of my favorite memories of all the trips that we've made coming back to Ontario. I think it's those slow, quiet mornings just chatting where I'm going to miss him the most. We're all going to miss him in our own ways, but we're also going to remember him in our own ways. I'll always remember him with a smile when I'm having a bowl of popcorn, if I'm ever having some dry cereal, or when I'm having a cup of tea on a quiet morning.
So I want to start with how my dad would have wanted me to start, and that's to say thank you. Whew, sorry. He after he passed, one of the OR nurses came to see us, let us know that on the night of his surgery,
After he was wheeled into the OR, he took the time to thank everyone for coming in the middle of the night. And apologize and to say, you know, so sorry for making you come in at 2 a.m. You know, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You know, so I think on behalf of my dad, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the support, especially from my mom. He was always fine, right? Dad, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. How are you? You know? Guess that's just his choice of profession, right? He, paramedic, firefighter. The well said that all the basket fund years. How can I help someone else, right? I'm fine. Don't worry about me. He retires and immediately finds another way to keep helping people at the Trinity community table. And just keep. Need something done at your house? Guess who's there with a coffee in hand? When do you want me there? 7? 8? No, just tell me, right? Dad, can you bring your ladder when you come over? Shows up with a brand new ladder, right? How much were they? Oh, nothing. They're giving them away today. You know? Kind. Always kind. Costs nothing to be kind. That's, in the last week, that's been one of my biggest takeaways is it's so easy to just smile, meet someone with a smile, say thank you, even for the smallest of things. That'll always stick with me. Showed me how to be a good husband, how to treat my wife, the way he always treated my mom so well. He was her protector. Loved her so fiercely. Always remember that. Take that with me. Oh, what a papa. What a papa he was. Oh, to these 5 beautiful boys here. Oh man, did he love them. And they loved him. I'm so grateful that they all have a little piece of him in them. Oh, hard not to think of him when you see them all together. I know we always will. Chris mentioned this. I've been saying on repeat since this happened. I said, how did we get so lucky? Of all the people who could have been your dad, you know? How do we get him? Like, man, we're the luckiest 3 guys in the whole world. And I shared that with a friend after he passed, and he said to me, wow. He said, wow, what a mission. What a mission we have to make sure that our boys say that about us. So, Dad, one day, long time from now, my boys are going to say that about me. They're to say how lucky they were. And it's because of you. You showed me how. I miss you, Dad.
Those are real hard acts to follow. I wish each and every one of you could come up here and see what I see. It's just absolutely awesome. Last night was awesome. Yesterday afternoon was awesome. I'm just so overwhelmed with pride for this man. For over 43 years, I've had the honor and the privilege of walking by Bart's side. My heart is broken, yes, but it is also full. It's full of gratitude that Bart chose me to share over half his life, and I will carry him with me in my heart for always. I am full of pride and love for my kids, Mike, Chris, Nick, Bina, Maddie, Allison. They are my rock. I am full of amazement and joy as I watch my 5 grandboys laugh and play and grow into such awesome individuals. They will carry a piece of Papa in their life every day. To quote, I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with you, and then I realized you spent the rest of yours with me. I smile because I know you loved me till the day that you went away. And you will keep loving me till the day we're together again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being part of Bart's life and coming today and honoring him.
America, thank you so much for being here today. And again, the family has invited you to join them for some food. Just on a real practical note, we need to take some of the chairs from here to put them in there. So if anybody here is in fine physical form, well, you could help us, like maybe firemen or something like that. But the family does hope that you can come and join with them. And thank you for sharing those words. Again, I knew Bart and his kindness and his generosity through Trinity, and not that it surprised me, but it's great to hear so many other stories of how his kindness and generosity was just who he was. And so I encourage you as you think upon his memories and as you celebrate and rejoice his life, as you remember to carry those things forward. And we want to close with this. As you leave this place, may the God who's close to the brokenhearted be close to you. May he carry your sorrows and strengthen your hearts and surround you with his presence. And may you find comfort in all of your memories of Bart. May you find hope in God's promise of the life after this life, and may you find rest, especially in these next few weeks and months, in his love. Let's close in a word of prayer and say again, Lord, all of these stories is who Bart was. And we just thank you for who he was, for the life that he lived, that he passed on to his boys and to his grandchildren, that he taught to those that he worked with, that he shared with those he volunteered with. Those memories will continue to live on, or for generations past this, and we thank you for that. And as we find hope and joy in those memories, may they also shape us and who we become in the years that we have left. So we thank you for his life. We thank you for his memory. We thank you for his legacy. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. If you wouldn't mind staying seated while the family goes out first.
When God calls me home and my soul is laid to rest, that won't mean I'm gone. Darling, heaven knows I love you just the same, so don't you